only had to know him for a minute, and there and then he'd chase away the gloom. Now he was no Caruso, but when he sang a song, somehow he'd light up the room. I met him at the old Copacabana. He said, how do you do-de-do-de-do? I said, I'm glad to meet you, James Durante. He said, buddy boy, I'm glad to meet you too. We talked about the days of Prohibition and how he started up in his career. He said he worked a nightclub on the Bowery in New York, and there they used to sell illegal beer. The customers were guys like Al Capone, and Bugsy Siegel used to go there too. And Jimmy played piano for $5 every night. No doubt he gave them Inca-Dinka-Doo. Time for him to do his second show now. So I thanked him for his time and said goodbye. And as I left, I heard him sing a chorus of Jimmy, the well-dressed guy. There are some folks in this world you meet once only, who live forever in your memory. And that's the way it was with James Durante, the man that never had an enemy. And that's the way it was with James Durante. I got that note from Bing Crosby, and was he glad to get rid of it? I got a million of them. It was opening night in London. The Palladium was packed. I'd been on and done my turn, a small supporting act. The interval was over. The crowd had left the bar, and now they waited eagerly as a voice announced the star. Directly said from Hollywood, of motion picture fame, put your hands together, Judy Garland is the name. She walked out in the spotlight, a very nervous act. She tripped and somehow fell, and then she landed on her back. The audience, they gasped, but like a trooper through and through, she said, you folks are wonderful. I really fell for you. The audience applauded that. Now she could do no wrong. They were standing up and cheering when she did the trolley song. She gave them songs like Swanee, and she sang The Boy Next Door. She sang Over the Rainbow, and the crowd just begged for more. 4 weeks she did in London, then back to the USA, and then I got a telegram. She sent it from LA. She said, opening up in New York, we'd like you on the bill. Wire me if it's okay. I think my heart stood still. 10 weeks at the Palace, evening show and matinee. Then we flew out to the coast for 6 weeks in LA. We played in San Francisco. Every night she'd stop the show. Then the tour was ended. It was time for me to go. I'd known her for about a year. I'd guess you'd call us mates. We never ever met again. I guess you'd call that fate. Then one morning on the news, the announcer sadly said, Miss Judy Garland died today. Yes, Judy G was dead. It was sad the way she left us. She had nothing more to give. But when she gave it all. And that's the way she lived. He was standing on the corner of a street in Charing Cross. When we met, he said, hello, my name is Bob. Then he said, I played piano. I said, whereabouts do you work? He said, right now I'm looking for a job. We walked down the street together. We chatted for a while. He said, call me if you need someone to play. Then he handed me a card with his name and number on, and then went quietly whistling on his way. Well, I thought no more about it. Then a week or two went by. I was doing broadcasts for the BBC. I had lots of songs to sing, so I thought I'd give a ring to this fella Bob and see if he was free. He came out to my house. We rehearsed for hours and hours. I said, when I need you next, I'll let you know. That was 26th of May. I remember well the day, even though it's nearly 30 years ago. Now he likes a little drink, and there's folks around who think his capacity is 18 pints a night. But in nearly 30 years of souping up the beers, I don't think that I've ever seen him tight. When his fingers touch the keys, picking out the melodies, making music in a fascinating way. You just have to sing along, you just have to sing the song. What a lucky day Bob Dixon came to play. Ah, you have to sing along, you have to sing the song. What a lucky day Bob Dixon came my way. A good friend of mine was Peter Sellers. We did many radio shows for the BBC. We did a long-running show at the Palladium, and we lived in the same block of flats in London. One morning I met Peter in the elevator, and he asked me for a song he'd seen me perform on television a few nights before. I sent him a copy of the song, but alas, Peter left us before he could ever perform it. I'm sure he wanted it for his old man character. This is the song.
Right-o, matey, play the music. Once a star of music, all crowds all came to see, for his talent and his thrilling personality. He would always top the bill, every night you'd see, standing room boards up outside and every matinee. But his star diminished and his name's no longer news. Now he's almost finished, he's performing to the cues. Standing in the gutter, he's a sorry sight to see, begging bread and butter, clinging to a memory. Once a star of music hall, crowds all came to see, for his talent and his thrilling personality. He can still remember how they cheered and how they laughed. They'd wait for hours and hours just to get his autograph. Every royal performance he was always in demand. Once the King of England shook him warmly by the hand. Once a star of music hall, crowds all came to see, for his talent and his thrilling personality. Though his name's not up there, he no longer tops the bill.
he can still perform his act with subtlety and skill. He can still smile inwardly. The reason is because at least he was a somebody and not a never was. Once a star of music hall, crowds all came to see, for his talent and his thrilling personality. They said that he was careful with the dollar, and he told us that his age was 39. He also said that he was not a scholar, and when he played the fiddle dogs would whine. But behind the act there was another person who was generous and wonderful and kind, admired by all the leading violinists. What's more, he had an academic mind. The people in the USA adored him. He was 30 years or more on radio, and when television came, he topped the ratings. His sponsor was a product called Jell-O. All the famous names were guest stars on his program. There was Crosby, Jolson, and of course George Burns. And I felt very flattered when he asked me to fly to Hollywood and do a turn. We were friends for 20 years and I adored him. He had humor, he had class, and he had tact. And sometimes I switch on and see a rerun, and how the memories all come flooding back. I know I see a first-class entertainer, but then of course I was a faithful fan. But to me, he wasn't just an entertainer. Jack Benny was a first-class gentleman. I met an old man in Nashville. That's Nashville, Tennessee. I guess that he was 85. But what a memory. He said, "You like country music, boy?" I said, "I think it's great." He said, "If you like real country music, son, you're 50 years too late." He said, "You ever hear of old Jimmie Rodgers?" I said, "Yeah, I know the name." He said, "Well, I know Jimmie Rodgers. That's my claim to fame. Jim used to sing of hobos, of freight trains and the blues. And he could make your hair stand up from your hat down to your shoes. They heard of him in New York, and a firm called RCA said, "Come and make some records." So he went to the Big A. But Jimmy was a dying man. This was 1932. But he cut a record every day. It seemed the thing to do. He cut 100 records, and everyone was great. But he died at 36. Fortune came too late. But sometimes on the radio, I'll hear a DJ say, "Here's good old Jimmie Rodgers." And son, that makes my day.